That's a lot.
It's
8
a lot.
shows a week.
It's a lot.
Physically, mentally, emotionally demanding.
You know, it's funny you said that. That's a part of my stage prayer before I come out behind that revolving door for Han.
Yes. Oh, I know.
I always say, thank you for giving me the strength mentally, physically, and spiritually to do this show. And I say those 3 things, and then I feel like I have the strength to do it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And then the revolving door opens.
And then and you come around and you just like change character.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. I have so many questions. I need to know everything.
Okay.
Empire Strips Back. I even wore the shirt.
I love it. It looks so good.
Tevyn Cole, welcome to the first hour.
Hey.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is incredible. I have so many questions for you. I've admired you from afar for a very long time, and I cannot believe you are sitting in this chair right now. This is kind of surreal for me.
I love this. Thanks for having me. And it's beautiful in here too. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Tevyn, how would you describe what you do professionally?
Well, I'm a choreographer first. That's like how I've been. That's what my career has been this whole time in LA. But I also am an actor, performer, and I just love the stage. So that's pretty much what I do full time. I also teach. I teach dance as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, there are so many layers to you that are so fun. And Dennis and I first found you through a show called Empire Strips Back.
Yes.
Which is, and correct me if I'm wrong, a comedy burlesque show that is Star Wars themed.
Yes. And it's a parody. So it's like, if you had watched the movie The Empire Strikes Back, you'll see references and a lot of Easter eggs to the film, but it's all done in a really fun and quirky way. And it's sexy.
It is. And I had never been to a burlesque show before I went to this. And so I was like, well, I have no idea what we are about to embark upon. And it was the most entertaining show I have ever seen. Dennis and I saw it twice in LA. We drove down to San Diego to go see it. And unfortunately, it was the one time that had to get canceled because a bunch of the girls got sick.
Yeah, pretty sick.
Which is such a bummer. But we're huge fans. Our friend Brian, who lives in Portland, so I'm sure he's going to see you in Portland. I texted him yesterday and was like, you'll never guess who is coming on the podcast tomorrow. It's Han Solo from Empire Strips Back. And he lost his mind. He just sent back like 50 exclamation
Oh my God. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that show is just incredible. And I just need to kind of like glamour in this. I mean, you are just so incredible. When you came out from behind the revolving door, something happened in Dennis and I, and we were just like, who is this person? He is magic. I mean, you just have this stage presence that is unbelievable.
Thank you. I mean, that's my favorite place to be. And I love the way it feels, especially coming through that door. It's kind of what I do mentally anyway. It's like, I have to completely shift my personality and turn into somebody else. So I love that the prop starts that way because it helps me get into that character.
Okay, that's wild. Okay, so you play Han Solo and the Emperor in the show. Now, how would you describe the difference between your personality and theirs?
I mean, I feel like Han, the way that I play him in the show, he's kind of he's like a bit of a fuckboy. He's a little sassy, but he like it's an MJ inspired moment. So I do love that movement. But I feel like it's not the way that I would normally dance. I usually love like jazz, and my personality is a little bit it's not like that at all. I feel like sometimes I'm actually a little more reserved, and I feel like that character makes me have to be the total opposite of that. So I love it. That's also what I like about acting though. So I told myself with this gig to just really push myself and to really take myself to the next level, because I had never even really taken my shirt off at the beach. Like, I'm really shy with my body. At least I was before this job. And so just all these different things that the show has had me do has really taken me to a different place mentally. And also just the way that I view myself and the way I view my body. It's been a crazy journey for me. And I remember, I don't know if you were there when I did the Wookiee song.
Oh, I was there. We were on our feet screaming. It was incredible.
That was something that, like, when I first started the show, that wasn't a part of it. But the director had come up and was like, I kind of want to throw this on you and just see how it goes. And so I just went home and studied the hell out of that song and the lyrics, and then I just went on, and I was so nervous because he just kind of watched me from side stage during tech, and I did it, and then he was like, yeah, it's going in the show tonight. And it was just terrifying, but it was also so much fun to get that reaction from everyone in the audience. I was like, oh my God, this is such a cool feeling.
Are you allowed to describe what it's like?
I don't know. You know, it's funny. I don't even know what I'm allowed to say, like contract wise, about the show, because I don't want to give anything away.
Exactly. Because even on the Instagram of Empire Ships Back, it's pretty like they don't post a lot.
Yeah, they like to keep the surprise element.
Right.
And which is also how whenever I've invited like my brother, he's like a huge Star Wars fan, and his girlfriend or any of my friends, I don't really tell them anything that I do in the show. I just like them coming and not knowing what to expect.
Okay, so we won't give it away, but you do an element of crowd work,
yes.
I would say.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point where you're like, okay, I just got to let loose here? Because it's pretty out there.
It is. It's really, it took a lot of voice training too. Because when I started doing that, I kept losing my voice every night.
Oh my gosh.
So then I got a vocal coach, and that helped me like tremendously. Her name's Lee Scarrett, and she's just like the best. But I also felt like I really wanted to do my best in front of that director, because I really love his work, and I treated it almost like an audition. And it was kind of an audition that just happened in the show, and I also knew or didn't know who was there, who was present. So it kind of was this really great pressure on me to just do my best. Wow.
So is that number in all of the Empire Ships Back now?
Yeah.
Or is it just in the ones that you do?
Actually, I think it is also in the other shows. Sure. I know that certain people don't do it.
Okay.
But for the most part, I think it is supposed to be in the show. I think that song's tricky with cues of knowing when to come in and when to say certain things. Yes. And not a lot of people are comfortable speaking. Because I even tried to recommend a few people to fill in for me if I ever was sick, but they had come and seen the show. They were friends of mine. They're like, oh no, I mean, I would love to do the dance, but there's no way I could do anything on the mic, which I guess I never thought of. But
yeah.
Something beautiful about dance is usually for people who are good at expressing themselves just physically and not always through speaking. So, yeah. That's
so interesting. Following up to that, you are just effortlessly cool. And you just are yourself. Have you always felt that way?
I feel like I really came into myself more after moving to LA, I think, because being back in Michigan, it was like a very rural farm town, and I always felt different, but it was a little bit scarier to express it, like just being out in public, because everyone is so, it just feels a little more muted and more normal, I guess you'd say. And then I also worked in Korea for 3 years before I moved to LA. Cool. And there's also a lot of pressure there, like physically, or how you should look, which is pretty intense on me. But then when I came to LA and I started meeting all these cool artists and people who just express themselves freely, I finally felt like that safe space to just do me. And I think starting to do that, I just kind of, things started just to flourish more and more. And also the kind of people I was meeting was expanding crazily just through how I was expressing myself with just my clothes or my hair. And so I feel thankful for LA for that, for giving people just like the freedom to just walk outside wearing whatever you want, you know?
I do love that. It's really cool. And yeah. Dennis and I lived in Portland before we moved here, and Portland is extremely different from LA, but I also appreciate that element about Portland where people are so uniquely themselves. Yeah. They wear whatever they want. Everyone looks different, and it's kind of celebrated. And I love that. And I feel that certainly there are parts of LA where it's like everyone feels like they have to look the same, but also I feel like if you get out there and meet different people and don't stay within this tiny circle, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. I just love seeing people like express themselves authentically, because it's like you can always kind of feel when it's not authentic. And I never want to give that impression. I love that so much. So when did you start dancing? I started when I was 5, because my grandma was a dance teacher for like 35 years. Wow. She taught ballet. And then my dad was a b-boy. And so they put us into dance, me and my sister, when we were like super young. So I was doing like tap and jazz and hip hop. Cool. And then
there was a moment where my parents did take me out to dance, and they kind of wanted to put me into more of like the masculine things.
Okay.
Like, yeah, so I did like soccer and basketball and martial arts, but like always I was in my room dancing.
I love that.
And so then I got really into Korean pop music when I was in high school. And so then I ended up moving over there when I was 20 and auditioning for like a Korean dance TV show,
Cool.
which was super cool. And I had never danced professionally before that. And so then through that show, I was able to start working with Korean pop singers and backup dancing on like award shows and things like that over there. And so that's when I feel like I actually turned into like a real like working dancer. But even then, my level wasn't anywhere near what it needed to be to make it in LA. And so then I moved here about 3 years after, and was mentored by Andre Fuentes, who was like the choreographer for Britney and Prince.
Oh
and
my
I
gosh.
loved, he was like always been my favorite. And I had messaged him when I was in Korea, like, Andre, you're my biggest inspiration. Like, I would love to learn from you one day. And I didn't think he would even respond. I just sent it out as like a fan mail.
I love that.
And he was like, well, if you're ever in LA, like I would mentor you. Someone mentored me when I was your age, and I saw some of your clips, and it was just, I couldn't believe he messaged me that. So that's what actually made me move here, was him. And
is this a Instagram message? Did you email
it
him?
was a Facebook message.
A Facebook message.
Yeah, that I didn't think he would open either. And I'd watched him in music videos since I was a kid. Like, he was in all of Britney's original music videos. It's just amazing. So yeah, I trained with him for a year and a half intensely.
What was that like?
Oh, he was brilliant and also like brutal, like brutally honest.
Okay.
And he really whipped me into shape.
Like, in what way?
Oh man, like he would teach me a dance and be like, yeah, you weren't good today. That was really bad. And I'd be like, oh wow, okay, you need to work on this, you need to fix this, you need to stretch more. And then he would also teach me a whole combo and then throw me a hand towel and be like, now do that whole choreography, but don't take the towel out of your hands. So then you're like making adjustments to the choreography by not separating your hands from this towel. He literally was like my Mr. Miyagi.
That's incredible. Okay, so what kind of skills do you think that drill would teach you?
I feel like he gave me, through that kind of training, was the ability to be able to perform under any kind of change or last minute adjustments. Things like that can happen in live performances. And I think he just made me more fearless with dance.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I was watching one of your videos on YouTube before this, and it was from like 5 years ago, millions of views, and you have this headband on, and on the first, you did some sort of like head flip. On the first head flip, the headband fell off. And it landed in front of you. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I wonder what he's going to do. And somehow you you worked it into the next move, and then you threw it out. And it was just seamless. It was beautiful. I'm like, this is a professional.
Thank you.
He can do everything.
That's Andre. That's like the kind of stuff he would do.
Wow.
Like, that's cool that you noticed that.
Yeah. Well, I do coaching, like fitness coaching on camera.
Right.
And so in different ways, things like that happen. And so you have to figure out how to either work through it or say something, that lightens the mood or whatever. But it's, I that just really stood out to me.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Yeah. I personally, like with, hair things and clothing things, it drives me insane when they come off when I'm performing.
Yes.
So finding ways to like fix it in the moment has become like a kind of a skill, because I feel like something's always falling off of my head, and it's just I just whip it too hard.
That is something that I've noticed about you. When you're dancing, I mean, you're just captivating, and I don't know if it's like it's how hard you hit the moves, and it's the facial expressions and the eye contact, and you just, whatever you're doing, you're meaning it, or you're showing us somehow that deep within you feel whatever is happening. And
thank you.
It's so cool.
Thank you. I feel like dance is like such a cool way to let out whatever you're going through, and like, or also to just not think about things that are happening, and just to have that, like, however long you're dancing, that 3-minute moment of just like being in pure bliss. It's like the best feeling. And I love to tap fully into, when I dance, I just like to act like it's my last time ever dancing. I like to give that kind of energy.
How do you get into that zone?
I mean, I feel like with music, it just kind of takes me there naturally. But also the letting go of fear of like judgment has been like the best therapy through dance. So I think I'm always just kind of like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go all the way. And yeah, it's the only way I can do it now.
How do you let go of fear of judgment? Because for example, like I did not grow up dancing. When I was texting you yesterday, I'm like, look, I know nothing about dance. I was a basketball player. I was like, sports.
No way.
Yeah. But I've always been so fascinated by it. And I just feel like I freeze up and I'm a tin man and I just don't know how to express myself. And I don't know if it's fear. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like I can't move freely. Like, how do you move so freely?
I think through just kind of know like a self, I guess how would I describe it? Having just confidence in knowing that what I'm doing is true. It's like people, I feel like with art, it's so subjective anyway. People can look at something and say, oh, that painting is trash. Or they can look at it and be like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with that. And so knowing that when someone looks at the way I'm dancing, their views are all going to be different regardless. So I might as well do it how I want to do it, the best way that I can. And just know that if people love it, they'll love it. And if they don't, they don't. And so I guess just kind of taking off that pressure of knowing that art is subjective, and it just kind of makes everything feel a little bit more free for me. Wow.
I love that. Cause there are people who are going to have criticisms.
Yeah. All the time.
No matter what we do. And it's not like, with all these artistic things, especially dancing, it's not like brain surgery. You're either doing it ready or not. Right. Like there's so many different ways that you can execute it and have it be beautiful.
Right.
You mentioned you like jazz dance.
Yeah.
Is that how you would describe the style that you have?
It's definitely based in like a jazz foundation. I really love street jazz and I love the 80s. So my main style would be jazz mixed with like house and a little bit of hip hop, and a little bit of Vogue elements. I just love like the lines of like 80s Paula Abdul choreography or like Janet and Michael. I just love that way of dancing. And that's like the era of dance that inspired me to dance in the first place. And so even though nowadays through dance, it has definitely evolved and changed. And a lot of the things that are trending look so different from how they did back then. I still like to stay true to what inspired me to dance in the first place, which was that era of dance. So street jazz is like my strong like love for dance. So that's I guess how I would describe my style. It's just street jazzy.
That's so cool. So were there certain videos that you watched that were really inspiring? What videos were those?
Oh man, I mean, Michael inspired me all the time growing up. And I would just watch all those videos and make my family sit on the couch and watch me dance it in front of them.
I love it.
But I have like a whole playlist saved on my YouTube it's just called Inspiration. And I'll go through and watch old rehearsal videos of Janet, really old like movie scenes. I love 80s movies, and sometimes a lot of the dance sequences in there inspire me a lot. So I just save anything to this playlist, and whenever I'm feeling a little bit uninspired, I just go back and watch. Especially like Bob Fosse, like I love all of his work too. And so sometimes just seeing something, the further back I go, actually, sometimes I get even more inspired because it's something that I haven't seen recently. So I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that that's a way that you can move.
For sure.
And so I don't know, that's kind of just how I do it to stay inspired.
That's amazing. So you're a choreographer. That's a huge thing, is being able to put these numbers together.
Yeah.
When you get a song, where do you start with choreography?
Oh man, I some people like will choreograph up a section that's further ahead and then go back and then work on the beginning and the end. But I have to go from the beginning to the end. I can't go further until I figured out what to do first.
Interesting.
So I kind of build it like a story, and I like to look at choreography almost like an essay, where you have like your intro and then you have your body and then your conclusion. It's always the conclusion that's the hardest part in choreography. You're like, how do I end?
Yeah.
But inspiration usually strikes around 1 or 2 a.m. Like I'll be in bed, like, and all of a sudden the song will pop in head, and I like have to get up and then turn on the lights and then like I'll start and then I'll just film it.
Okay.
So I have that beginning ready, and then I'll go to sleep. That way I still have it for tomorrow. Then I'll just keep working on it when I have more energy.
You're just like sleepwalking in your room. So a move or some sort of sequence will pop into your head at that point. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I've also noticed, it's really interesting, but like when I'm in my bathroom choreographing, it's almost better because I'm confined to a smaller space. So I can think about movement better. But if I'm ever just go to a dance studio and be like, okay, let me choreograph, when the room is too big, I get overwhelmed with all the places that I can move and go, that it actually makes it way harder. Because I'm like, oh, there's too much space. I could do way too much. So it's almost better to start with a small amount of space. And then when I get to a studio, I can expand it and make it bigger.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when you are programming, that's a fitness term. When you're choreographing for a class,
Yeah.
what do you think about? Because there's probably different levels, right?
Yeah. My class is mostly intermediate advanced. So I always am trying to think of how to push them or challenge them. But the challenges can always be different. So if I feel like a certain combo is on the simpler side, my main challenge for them will be, okay, how can I get them to perform this one stronger? And so before every class, I'll offer up intentions, kind of like how you would do in a yoga class. And so I'd be like, today's intention is on your lines. I want really clean arms. I want...
what does that mean?
Well, like if you were to do like a reach, some people are so used to hip hop or more of a street style that a lot of their reaches and lines will be a little bit broken and not finished. So like,
is that like
to
fully
extend it all the way out. And so that's like what I love about jazz is you're always completing your lines. So I'll be like, okay, today's intention is your lines and your performance. Or if it's a different one, I'll be like, a different day, I could be like, today, your intention is musicality, which will be maybe a combo that has more isolations and tricky music things that you're trying to pay attention to. So yeah, it's like every day I just try to make it a little bit different because it's not always going to be extremely intricate. Sometimes it could be more simple. So there's always something you can find in it to focus an intention on. Because even if it's easier and I have like a really advanced dancer, I feel like there's still something that can evolve through that class, whether it be maybe you don't look in the mirror and you turn around and do the whole thing facing the wall. Like, I don't know, there's so many ways that you can
throw a hand towel in there and you make it.
Yeah. Sometimes I just make the whole class turn and face the blank wall where they don't have the mirror and they have to do the whole thing not looking at themselves. And that is always so fun to watch because it really messes with people's brain.
Yeah. I have experiences with that in the fitness world too. What do you think happens to students when you do that?
Well, I think they depend a lot on the mirror and seeing themselves, that they're actually not digesting the movement. They're relying on kind of seeing themselves, but also seeing the people around them. So when you take them out, it's them having to like internalize it and actually remember it. So you see people get lost, or you see people really just like unleash, and it gets even better because they're not focused on just looking at themselves. They start to really feel it. That's actually my favorite part of class. Sometimes I'll split them and have them face each other.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So they have to like look and perform to another person on the other side of the room. It's so cool.
That's such a great idea.
Yeah.
In fitness, it's actually very similar. Some people just have a preference of they always want to be looking in the mirror. They're checking their form, like all this kind of stuff. Some people purposely feel like they want to turn. They don't want to look at themselves in the mirror. They just get way too self-conscious.
Okay.
But sometimes very similarly, I'll kind of do the opposite where I want people, if they're used to looking in the mirror, I'll say, okay, let's turn away and feel the difference in where you're pulling and where you're feeling these things. And obviously I will correct them if it's not correct. We want them to stay safe, but or if someone is self-conscious, every once in a while we'll turn towards the mirror and we'll kind of stare into our souls in a sense where it just allows them to start becoming more comfortable with themselves and their bodies and the strength that they're building.
Yeah, I love that because some people are actually feel a little weird to look at themselves, which I think is where a beautiful growth and confidence comes from, just being in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like, it can be good and bad. It just depends on what you're trying to work on.
Yeah. And what the person individually needs.
Right.
When you yourself are practicing, do you tend to look in the mirror to learn it and see how your body's moving? Yeah,
I feel like I need to be in the mirror just to make sure that I like the angles.
Yeah.
And I always love finding a moment where it's less about it's not just dance. I like to find cool moments where it feels like you're a superstar. And so I need the mirror to make sure that reads. I like a look over the shoulder or like a... You
do that so often. It makes the dance. It makes the moment and helps the audience connect with you.
Right.
What are your tips for people like starting out? Because yes, you can move your body in a certain way, but
Right.
I feel like what makes you, there's a lot of things that make you next level, but the way that you connect with your face and your emotions makes a difference. How do you coach people in that? Or how do you do it yourself?
Actually, I taught like a private class recently, and I gave everyone a homework assignment.
Yes.
And they all had to go home and turn on a fan. So the
Okay.
hair's blowing, and they had to look in the mirror and perform the song sitting down, like do
Okay.
the choreo. So it's just your upper body.
Okay.
And just kind of connect with yourself in the mirror and let that wind blow in the hair and just kind of feel like a star. Kind of like we do when we're kids.
Yes.
I feel like when we get older, some people feel like that's silly, but it actually is a form of, it's practicing. Kind of like how you would do, I guess, if you were rehearsing like a scene, if you were acting.
Yeah.
I feel like the face is like such an important part of the performance, and so many, especially technical dancers, they get very like concerned with being perfect that they'll have the movement so perfect, but it's just so dull and boring to watch. And I always prefer like a raw performer, like someone who looks like they're just like off the street, but they're just really feeling it. Because then you can always clean it up and make them cleaner. But you can't really teach someone like true like star quality. They just have to kind of find that in themselves, which I do think everyone, maybe not everyone wants that, but I feel like it is a possibility for everyone to find somewhere in there.
I agree. You can unlock it, but I think there's a vulnerability that you have to be willing to expose, because it is a vulnerable thing to move your body and to get out there like that. It is. It's
such a cool thing to see though, like over time people start to shed those layers through class and see the person who used to come in super shy and very insecure, and to see like months later they're just like ripping off their jacket and throwing it, and just like, you know what I mean? It's just so cool, like to watch that evolve through dance. It's cool.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
And I mean, you said that you kind of went through that yourself, especially with the Empire Strips Back show.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Was it just practice for you? Was there a moment where you felt like, okay, I can do this?
I was telling you, I used to be shy at the beach or at the pool. And, it just always was very, I think with a lot of dancers, we get very insecure about our bodies. And I've never been the guy that was like super jacked, or like, I'm not like a Magic Mike dancer, you know?
Okay.
And so I don't know, when they first reached out for this job, I was genuinely confused. I was like, wait, you want me to be Han Solo in a burlesque show? Like, it didn't seem real. So I literally just had my agent talk to them.
Yeah.
And she calls me back. She's like, no, it's real. They want you for it. And they said they don't want a guy that's like Magic Mike. They want a guy with your build. And I was like, all right, I mean, let's just go for it. And I even felt like during rehearsals, honestly, I was still like not feeling it. Like, it felt so weird to like take off my shirt and like try to be sexy. I felt like I couldn't take myself seriously doing it. But it was that first night in LA. I remember being like so nervous. Like, my hands were shaking because we had like 1,000 people a night at that theater. It was crazy.
It's incredible.
And I was just so afraid that like I would take my shirt off and people would be like like disgusted or something. I don't know what the thought was, but it was like, I really didn't think, I was not expecting the complete opposite reaction, which I think is what's beautiful about burlesque. And in the first place, it's not about having the perfect build or the perfect body. It's about like loving the skin that you're in and just kind of embracing that. And so the screams and that energy I got from just taking off my shirt was like almost like a therapy for me. I was like, wow, I can't believe that's the reaction I'm getting for having my shirt off.
Yes.
And so I don't know, I felt like completely changed after that first night. And then I couldn't wait to like get to the theater and do it again the next day. And then it also like started to motivate me to like jump in more workout classes, because I'm like, wow, now I feel good, but now I want to like make myself feel even better. Like, I want to like try to get stronger. And
I love that. But that's a beautiful thing. I think sometimes people are like, okay, when I get to whatever this goal Magic Mike is, then I'll be happy.
Right.
It's like, well, it's actually not true, because sometimes the people who have the lowest amount of body fat, the most amount of muscle, are the most miserable. And they feel like they can't enjoy themselves, and they're so strict, and it's just this mind game.
Right.
But if you can figure out how to be comfortable and love, and respect who you are and feel comfortable in that, that makes all the difference.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my God, I love it.
I mean, true. Everyone needs to go see this show. Empire Strikes Back. It's not a kid's show. Okay.
No.
So leave the kiddos at home, but it's just magical. So, okay. So you moved to LA. How long ago?
I think it's coming up on 9 years in January.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your first year like here?
Terrible. It
Tell me
was,
more.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So when I came for that mentorship with
Yeah.
Andre, I didn't know anybody in LA, and I didn't even really know him. I only through Facebook. And so I had a little bit of savings from Korea, but not a lot. I had like $600.
Yeah.
And so I was couch surfing, and which was terrifying, but I was like really willing to do whatever I could to train with him. And I also didn't want him to know that I didn't have a place to stay, because then I didn't want him to think that I was asking for a place. It was just a weird position to be in. So yeah, I was like, there was a period for about 2 to 3 weeks that I was just straight up homeless. And I didn't want to tell family back home either, because then obviously they would have just flown me back.
Sure.
But it was really rough, and I had to budget like crazy. Like I was rationing a Subway sandwich to get me through the day. Like it was wild, to be honest. It was like the hardest year of my life. But I also met some of the most incredible people within that first year that ultimately changed my entire experience here. Wow. I'll never forget this one casting director. His name was David Kong. And when I was in Korea, he was there casting for a Marvel movie, and we were supposed to have a meeting, and he ended up getting too busy, and he couldn't come to our meeting. So he kind of like not flaked on me, but kind of. Yeah. And he had said like, hey, you know what? I feel so bad. If you're ever in LA, please hit me up. And there was one day where I was like, oh yeah, there was that guy. I need to hit him up. And I didn't know how big of a deal that he really was. And when I went to his office, it was just like this high rise, and it was stunning. And there was like models, and it was his name on the wall, and it was crazy. And he was like coming to my office, and he like auditioned me there on the spot, put me on film. And he was like, I think you're really great. What do you need from me? And I was like, I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to audition. And he was like, well, I'm going to get you signed. And so then he like calls an agent, and they're like, oh, well, and it was on speakerphone. And I'm like, well, if it's you referring him, we'll sign him. And so when he hangs up, he's like, well, I got you signed. What else do you need? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Thank you so much. It's that's amazing. That's more than I could have ever asked for. And I had these boots. They were Aldo boots that had holes in the toes, because I was walking so much. I was only walking LA to get to rehearsals and wherever I needed to get. And he's like, where are you staying? And I was like, oh, I'm just kind of like couch hopping right now. And he was like, oh, okay. And then the next day he calls me, and he was like, hey, if you help me move some things in my office, I'll let you stay in a condo I have for a month. And so, so I went to his office and helped him like move some furniture around. And then I stayed in this beautiful condo for a month. But that month gave me a consistent place to sleep where I could actually focus on applying for a job and like getting on my feet. And I'll just never forget that. I felt like it was such a crazy experience. Oh, and then he gave me like, it was something crazy, like 12 pairs of new shoes. Yeah, he was like, I only wear shoes about 1 or 2 times, and like, we're the same size. And he just like, it was insane.
That is incredible.
It was insane. And then once that was done, I was able to find a roommate through the dance studio I was at, and everything just kind of. But it was just such a battle, like to try to be dancing all day with Andre and trying to train with him, but then also trying to get on my feet financially and auditioning. But after that first year was done, through the connections and people I was able to meet, I was finally able to like feel like I had a good base. But it was crazy.
It's like you gotta trudge through some of those moments, and then the opportunities happen. So when so you're staying in the guy's place until you find a roommate. Mm-hmm. Were you teaching at a studio, or did you get a separate job while you were auditioning?
I ended up getting like 3 jobs. I found a job. So the main thing that was a struggle is I only had dance rehearsal clothes that I brought with me, and I only had a backpack. And so I didn't have a wardrobe to even show up and apply at even a Starbucks looking decent. And I didn't have the money to go buy interview clothes. So it was just really weird. It was a weird time. And I got a job passing out real estate flyers, like door to door.
Yeah.
And then I was also working at a watch store called Fossil.
Yeah.
And then there's this witchy store in North Hollywood called The Green Man.
Okay.
And I would just like clean and organize their store. That was a fascinating place to work.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. It was crazy, but I wasn't teaching because I wasn't really known at the time. I was still getting on my feet and learning. I was just trying to learn as much as I could. Yeah, I think connections, I realize, have been like the main thing. It's like, it's all about like which people you connect with and then what that leads to down the line. Because even with David, I had no idea that a couple years down the line, I would end up working with him and, choreographing things for him and choreographing his auditions for dancers when they come in. It's just amazing how things circle back around.
So David was the one who kind of helped you get on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
What, you then choreographed music videos for him?
Not for him specifically. He put me in like a Fox Sports commercial, and he like put me in like a Chris Brown music video. Wow. Like he was just very like, he never like gave it to me, but he'd be like, you can come to this audition.
Yes.
And then I could show myself. But he helped me kind of find like a good ground of like opportunities. And then he would have auditions at his casting office for things where people need to dance. And he'd be like, hey, can you come in and teach these people to dance for the audition? So I started doing that.
Cool.
Yeah. It was pretty cool because I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to be doing. This is where I see myself in the future. And he gave me a glimpse of what that will feel like. So down the line, years later, he would like hit me up and be like, I have a music video. Can you choreograph it? And so I would choreograph videos for him, for artists that he was like producing for.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you still do quite a bit of music video stuff?
Yeah. I mean, the past 10 months I've been so consumed by the show that I'm doing, but that is my main source of income is music videos. Cause teaching isn't really, teaching is more of like a thing from my soul, but it's not financially the best unless you're teaching abroad. Like if you're getting flown somewhere to teach, you get paid really well. But when I'm teaching in LA, it's pretty like, that's like my grocery money.
Yes,
It's the music videos that are my like the stage things I do. That's what brings in the real money. And I love working with artists.
Yeah.
It is so much fun to hear a song and then like come up with the moves and then put it on them and then see how they do it. It's just the best.
That speaks into my next question. You get hired for this music video.
Mm-hmm.
What is that process like? Do you ask them a bunch of questions before you start choreographing, or are you just kind of going to town right away?
I guess it just depends on the type of artist. I do ask questions. My main things are like, what is your dance experience? Because one thing I do notice is a lot of singers nowadays, they don't really have dance experience. A lot of them, they just make cool beats or they're great singers, but dancing isn't really like the main thing as it used to be. So for me, it's finding that, where I don't want to completely sacrifice my creativity and make it look boring, but finding a cool balance on someone who's not a dancer. So usually I jump in the studio with them for a few sessions and just see how it goes and then come up with something that makes them feel good that I'm also satisfied with.
That's a cool middle ground because obviously it's the artist's video. You want to set them up for success.
Right.
And also make it the coolest possible video.
Exactly. Like I want my style to shine through, but obviously if someone's not a trained dancer, there's certain things they're not gonna be able to do. So that's what I love about it, because I realize dance doesn't always need to be, like impress them with like all these crazy moves. Sometimes it's just about the feeling and the intention behind the movement. And then when you pull that back and just go into like movement coaching, I actually love that even more. There was a job, this was like a year and a half ago, for a movie where an actress it was like a autobiopic where she needed to move and dance just like this famous singer.
Okay.
And so for a month I trained her. We did like 10-hour days. Wow. And it was really cool because I could just study old videos of this singer and then show up the next day and have more ideas and just really work on everything from just like how she would sit and how she would place her shoulders and how does she walk. And I was like, wow, I love this side of dance because this is just movement and not everyone is aware of what their body looks like.
For sure.
So it's cool. And I love that. I love doing that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So was she dancing at all or was
Yeah,
this?
she ended
okay,
up
so
dancing.
she was dancing, but it was also just in the rest of the movie. Like, how did this person?
How does she move? How does she like stand with the mic on stage? How does she do like the modified version when the dancers behind her are like doing the full version? Yeah. It was a challenge though. That was the hardest job I think I've done.
10-hour days. How do you structure that time? What are you doing?
It was actually, I wasn't sleeping well. Like I canceled all of my private lessons, all of my classes to just dedicate it to this. And she would send me sometimes video clips at like 2 a.m. and be like, hey, so the artist wants me to learn this next. So then I would get out of bed and learn it because we would be meeting in the morning. And I'm like, well, I don't know this performance. And then but I pushed myself the hardest I have actually for that. And I feel like I did my absolute best with that job. So
what a way to come out of that though. To be like, that was
when it was done, I was like, praise God.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any dream artists that you would love to work with and do a video for?
Ooh. I don't know. I feel like I love Madonna.
Yeah.
And I love Janet. I know that's a tricky question. I guess I would dream to work with any artist that really wants to dance, which it's been hard to find. There are artists that do want to do that, but I just miss that era of like even just you go to early 2000s.
I know. I was going to say, I feel like it's so different now.
It's so different now.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can get away with doing so much less as long as you have a really cool look and a great team behind you. But I guess I'm just kind of patiently waiting for someone who wants to be that kind of artist.
And maybe you can
nurture
that within them.
So I'm manifesting that.
We're putting that out in the universe.
Yes.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. Cause I really want to be, I don't see myself choreographing like, as my main end goal. Like I want to be acting, but I'll always, if it's for an artist, that's what I would do. And then I would love to choreograph movies and TV shows, but I really am just trying to get more into the acting side of things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What kind of acting?
I mean, I love comedy, but also drama would be fun. Cool. Like I love theater. And that's what another thing about this show that's been so cool is like, I've been so focused on choreography this whole time that I always in the back of my head is lingering like, okay, but when am I going to be acting? Which is like my main like thing that I want to be doing.
Right.
And I feel like this job has kind of pivoted me a little bit more into the theater world. And so now theater opportunities are starting to present themselves, which I'm excited to explore those as well and just kind of see where that takes me. Yeah,
that is a really great kind of stepping stone into that next thing because they are so aligned.
Right. It's like I get to dance, but then I'm also like, in a way, acting like a different person. Yeah.
Which, I mean, you're crushing it, as I've told you.
Thank you.
Okay, so in kind of your next steps, what are you looking forward to?
Next steps, I'm looking forward to I guess there's so many things, but if it isn't a show, I'm looking for something where I can have lines and I can speak, and also still be dancing. If I'm in theater. This actually was a show that was coming up in LA. It was from a producer who had come to the LA show. Oh. And he had this amazing, this is going to backtrack a little bit, but so the show doesn't have a playbill.
Okay.
Which I don't know. I don't remember. How did you find me actually? Now that I think about it.
So Dennis and I were walking, what's that street? Sunset? No. Hollywood Boulevard?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're walking along because we're going to a fashion show. A friend invited us to a fashion show. And so we walked by the theater that the show at Empire Strips Back was at. And we were like, Empire Strips Back? What on earth is this?
Yeah.
So immediately, as soon as we get to the show, we Google it and we see that it's this Star Wars parody burlesque show. And instantly we bought tickets
Love
for a couple days later.
Yeah.
And that's how we found
That's how
you.
you found the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was curious about that because without having the playbill, I never knew how people would ever even know that I was in this show.
Yeah.
But so there was this guy, I guess he's a director and producer, and he had saw the show in LA, and this happened a few months ago where I get a text from this girl I had worked with over a year ago, and she's like, "Hey, I was just in a production meeting, and a director has been looking for the guy that plays Han Solo that he saw like 4 months ago, but he couldn't find you anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Can I put you in contact with him?" And I was like, okay. And then I take a meeting with him when I got back to LA, and he's like redesigning this whole new show, and he wanted to cast me as like the main character of the show, which I was like, hell yeah, sign me up. That's what I want to be doing. But then it conflicted with my contract because I still had Chicago to do, and I couldn't do the dates. No. Yeah. And I was just like, ugh. But I know everything happens in the right timing.
Yes.
But, and it also was very validating for me. It made me feel like, okay, even though this isn't happening, I feel good to know that something like this will happen and can happen, and that someone else like that can see that in me. So I don't know. It was a bummer, but also was kind of satisfying at the same time.
It's just a matter of time. It truly is. I mean, you're different. You know, when you see somebody and you're like, that person is a star, that is the experience that people have when they see you.
Wow,
and
thank you.
It's true. And I can't wait to see what you do because
thanks.
It's already an incredible beginning.
Thank you.
To your story.
Thank you.
9 years into LA and you're already doing all of these things. It's pretty incredible.
Thank you. How long have you been here?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah. So we're coming up on our third, and it's cool. Like we've really enjoyed it, but the first couple of years were COVID.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
Yeah, so it was weird.
So this last year was like
this last year was like our first experience when things have been, open and the fun things are happening again. And we were planning on moving before everything, shut down. And so we had an apartment, and then it got pushed back because the people who were there were from Canada, and so they couldn't go back home.
Oh my
So we were like
gosh.
hopping around for a while, and then eventually we were able to move and get settled. But it's a cool place. It's a unique experience here. And what I love is you can just dream. And I feel like you're like this, where it's just like your dreams can come true if you put in the work and you just keep going. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's meeting the right people. It's getting out there. It's putting yourself out there, being vulnerable.
And the keep going part.
Yes.
Because I've over the past few years, I've seen so many people move home or leave because success didn't come right away. But it's always the people that are sticking around that end up in one way or another doing something amazing. Because it's just like a matter of time for everybody. And I also feel like there's a lane and a path for every single person. Because I feel like a lot of dancers and actors look at things as competition, but I just see that like there's so many different possibilities and opportunities for every person to do something cool. So
it's so true.
Yeah.
There's endless opportunities, and in the dancing world and the fitness world, I think it's interesting because people are like, oh, it's so saturated. It's like, well, yeah, it is. And also there's no better time than now because we weren't here 10 years ago, and there's going to be new people coming. But as long as you keep creating and trying things and getting out there, you just never know what could happen. You never know who's watching. That is interesting. Why don't they have a playbill for Empire Strikes Back?
I don't know.
Because I can't remember. I think Dennis found you. Dennis behind the camera here did the deep dive to find who you were, and then we all followed you and I like watch your Instagram lives where you're getting ready and doing your own hair and makeup and like all of that kind of stuff, and it's so entertaining. It's just the best.
Thank you. Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I don't want to say anything negative, but I do wish. I feel like a playbill is such an amazing part of the theater experience because it's cool for someone to see a show and then immediately read on, oh, this person, that's their photo and this is what they do.
Yes.
I feel like it's a very necessary part of the theater experience. But, it is what it is. And we just roll with it.
We find you.
Yeah.
When we need to find you, we find you one way or another.
Yeah, I love it.
So for people who are watching and listening and, who are interested in dance as a profession, like what are some habits and things that you think people should be practicing?
One thing that I do think is actually really important for people trying to pursue dance professionally is to make sure that their whole life isn't only in the classroom. Because I meet a lot of people that come and they're just like so all about it, and it just feels like they're in class every day, but they're in multiple classes a day. And I think that's where there's like a line between work ethic and then also there's a part where you like stop absorbing like knowledge because you're pushing your body and mind way too far, where I almost recommend taking one class maybe every other day, so that you can actually let what you learned sit and actually take in what the teacher said. And also doing other things in your life to get inspired in dance, because if you're only dancing, what are you pulling inspiration from? There has to be life experiences happening on the side to actually give you something to express. And so I wish more young dancers knew that, because they come, and I love that drive though, because I was like that too. But I feel like there's a balance that needs to be there to actually grow and not just kind of run yourself down and then burn out and then feel like nothing happened for you. I feel like there's a sweet spot there of like training hard and then also not overdoing it. And then also just having good communication skills and being on time to things is so important, because I do feel like artists in general, like sometimes it's like it's just not always the best, not very punctual or professional. And that's like a huge part of the career is that part, because I've hired, oh my gosh, man, like in the past I've done little gigs, like little things for like one that was really fun was like Taron Egerton, his birthday party, and he had just finished Rocket Man, and I just got some friends together to dance at this party, and I choreographed something. But yeah, one person was like really drunk and then was kind of not reflecting the group really well, and was also late. And like those things matter, because then when I want to hire people for a bigger thing, I can't get that one thing out of my mind. And so I think it's like always presenting yourself in the best way. It's just important. And like if you're gonna, party, maybe do it separately. Like don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like dancing at a party, like it's entertainment.
Right.
And also there needs to be an element of professionalism.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I feel like sometimes that gets blurry to certain people. So
that's such a good word. You mentioned dancing at that party. Do you have any other favorite moments that might have not been a favorite moment?
Actually, that day was amazing, because I had just watched Rocket Man, and I love Taron Egerton, and my friend is a big producer, but I didn't really ever ask her about her work, and she just randomly was like, "Hey, do you want to come like dance tonight at my house? And like I'm throwing a birthday party." And I was like, "Okay, like what? Sure." And she's like, "Yeah, I wanted you to dance like an Elton John song. Maybe bring some friends." And I was like, "Okay." Like it's just she's so random all the time though. So I just was like, "Okay." And then she's like, "Yeah, it's for that guy. It's for Taron. He's like a friend of mine." And I was like, "Okay, like what?" So like, I was like, "What's happening?" So I go and we surprise him with this dance, and it was like amazing. And I met so many cool people there. Like Paris was there, and Nikki, and then the director of Rocket Man. I got to meet him and talk to him for a little bit, and I just got really inspired. And like I feel like those kind of experiences in LA really like light me up, because I'm like, wow, everything is so small and so connected, and like as long as we are remaining authentic and doing our best in every moment, then things just naturally align and cool things will happen.
It's so true.
Yeah.
One night meeting one person, one experience can be the difference.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, it's the best. And then there's a time where my mom was in town, and I brought her with me to another house, like little one of those LA house party things, and mom was just hilarious. Like I was like, "Mom, look behind you, like don't make it obvious." And then my mom just like, "Oh my God, is that?" And it's just being like really over the top, and it was just really funny to like. It was cool to like have her in that setting and just kind of see like the whole LA experience of being around celebrities and things like that. It's just really fun.
it's different from rural Michigan.
It's different. I'm so happy I brought her. I was like,
That's so fun.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has just been so much fun.
So thank you for having me on here.
Yes. Is there anything else about your experience that you think is important for people to know?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe there is. I just can't think of it right now.
I feel you. I mean, it's just, I'm so inspired by you in being in a creative space, continually improving your craft. Like I was on your YouTube for a really long time this morning, just like watching all of the different things that you do. It's just incredible.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see where you go from here.
Thank you. Hopefully I see you in Portland.
Oh, 1,000%. And we're going to tell you all our favorite coffee shops and food
Perfect.
places.
I can't wait.
So it's going to be a whole experience.
Perfect.
Yes. So Tevyn, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram. My handle is Tevyn Cole. It's my first and last name. And you can also find me on YouTube. Those are my two main. Yeah, it's just Instagram and YouTube, Tevyn Cole. I have all my dance videos there.
Perfect.
It's pretty much all I really post.
Yes. And if people want to take a class with you, you teach at Millennium?
Yes, I teach at Millennium Dance Complex Mondays and Thursdays. And all of that is on my Instagram as well.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining today's episode with Tevyn Cole. You can find all about Tevyn in the show notes. We have links to his socials and all the places you can find him and connect. Now, we have another episode with Tevyn coming up very soon where he teaches us the choreography to the Britney Spears song Anticipating. Now, I am not a dancer, so if you are too a beginner, you can join us. It's gonna be follow along. You can join us every step and bebop along the way, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming episode with Tevyn and we can dance together. We'll see you next time.